cannot believe it. This can't be true. This can't be true. It's a monstrous case. Because it's the own father who did this to his daughter.
Do you think she knew?
We still do not know what his wife really knew.
She took in 3 babies, one after another, and accepted them.
Yes.
Today I will tell you a shocking crime case, which sounds fictional. It seems so, but it is real. This whole case which I am going to talk about today, when the truth about it came out, the police staff thought it was a lie. The police staff felt as if someone was telling them the plot of a very bad horror movie. But when the evidence regarding this whole case started coming out slowly, the police as well as the entire media went into shock. Josef Fritzl was a name which was very respected in society. Many people respected this name a lot, but the man behind this name was not known to anyone what was going on in his mind, and forgot about the mind. No one had any idea what was going on inside his house for the last many years. Josef was an old man who lived with his wife named Rosemarie, and Josef and Rosemarie had 7 children in total, out of which one was Elisabeth. Elisabeth was not like the other children. Elisabeth and Josef never got along. They used to fight all the time, and because of these two, the mood of the house was always bad because of their fights. The real story started when Elisabeth left her house to join a cult. One day, Elisabeth ran away from home at random to join a cult, and there was no idea why where did this happen? This was told to Rosemarie, but the truth was very dark. The story of Elisabeth running away from home was told to Rosemarie by Josef. But the truth was that Elisabeth did not run away anywhere. Elisabeth was under her own house, and by down, I mean in a secret chamber, in an underground bunker. Josef was always a person with a survivalist mindset, and he was very interested in these underground bunkers and secret chambers, so much so that there was a cellar under Josef's house, and Josef made a secret chamber under that cellar. You can call it a bomb shelter or a bunker, and nobody knew about this bomb shelter. Nobody knew that there was a secret chamber under the cellar under that house. It was so that one day, Josef told Elisabeth that I am fixing a door in the cellar downstairs, and I need help from one more person. So Josef asked Elisabeth for help, and Elisabeth said yes. When both of them were going down to the cellar, Josef quickly took out a cloth from his pocket, which was filled with ether, or we can say chloroform, and he picked up that cloth and put it on Elisabeth's mouth, and at the same time, he held Elisabeth very tightly so that she could not move. Because of that cloth, whatever chemical was there, Elisabeth got infected. She fainted there, and when Elisabeth opened her eyes, she was locked inside a secret chamber, which was under the same house. The cellar under the house had many rooms. In one of those rooms, there was a bookshelf, and when you moved that bookshelf to the side, there was a way behind it to the secret chamber, where Josef had imprisoned Elisabeth. There was no air coming from anywhere in that underground bunker or secret chamber. There was no ventilation at all, and there was no trace of sunlight because it was an underground bunker, and the rooms inside that underground bunker were very small. The ceiling height was up to 6 feet maximum. That chamber was very small, but still there were many rooms inside it, according to which 2-3 people could stay there. There were small rooms inside that chamber, like 2 small bedrooms, 1 living area and 1 storage area. The day Elisabeth disappeared, Rosemarie first noticed that Elisabeth was missing, and then he started asking questions to Josef that where did Elisabeth go? Elisabeth is nowhere to be seen. Where did she go? And at that time, Josef replied to Rosemarie that Elisabeth has run away from home, and after running away, Elisabeth has joined some cult, and she will never return. Josef used to secretly take food and water to that chamber so that he can give food and water to Elisabeth. And after a few days, Josef decided that he will probably never let Elisabeth go out of this chamber. Now comes the really dark part. Josef did not just hide Elisabeth. Josef also kept on her for 4 to 5 years. Elisabeth had been sexually assaulted so many times that at one point she became pregnant. And after that, Elisabeth delivered that baby in that very chamber. Inside the same chamber, she gave birth and started raising the child. That child was growing inside the same chamber. And within a year of the birth of that first child, Elisabeth became pregnant again and delivered another baby. So now after this, Elisabeth was raising 2 children in the same chamber, which had neither light nor proper ventilation, and those children were kept in the same chamber. No one had any idea that there was a world outside that secret chamber. And soon after Elisabeth delivered the 3rd baby, Josef took the 3rd baby with him outside the chamber. After taking the baby out of the chamber, Josef put the little baby in a box and left it outside the door of his own house. Later, Josef told Rosemarie that he found the baby outside the house, and he thinks that Elisabeth became pregnant after joining the cult. According to the story told to Rosemarie earlier, when Elisabeth joined the cult, she became pregnant there, and Elisabeth aborted the baby and left the baby at Josef and Rosemarie's house, so that Josef and Rosemarie could raise the baby. Surprisingly, Rosemarie agreed to this and started raising the baby like her own child. Josef never stopped, because of which Josef and Elisabeth had a total of 7 children, out of which 1 child died during birth. So in total, 6 children were alive, out of which 3 children were in the chamber below, and the remaining 3 were above ground with Rosemarie. So at the same time, 3 children were growing below the chamber, where there was no air, no water, and no light. And at the same time, 3 more children were growing above ground with Rosemarie in a normal way. Every time Josef used to do this, that as soon as a new child was born, he used to put that child in a box and leave it outside his door. And later, he used to tell this story to Rosemarie, that this child was also Elisabeth's. With the same story, Rosemarie was raising 3 children whom she believed were Elisabeth's. One of the 3 children growing below the chamber was Kirsten, who was 19 years old, and she had not come out of this chamber for 19 years. One day, Kirsten fell very sick inside the chamber, so sick that Elisabeth had to beg Josef to take Kirsten to the hospital. Elisabeth had to beg Josef every time inside the chamber to get her treated, and one day, Josef agreed to Elisabeth's request, and he took Kirsten to the hospital. When the hospital staff saw Kirsten, they felt as if they were seeing a ghost. She was white as snow, and that girl had a severe deficiency of vitamin D because that girl had never seen the sun. Kirsten's health was very bad, and if the doctors had to treat Kirsten, it was very important for them to find out what Kirsten's biological history was and who Kirsten's parents were. The doctors asked questions to Josef. Josef repeated the same story that Kirsten's mother had left home to join a cult when she was 18 years old, and when Kirsten was born, Elisabeth, Josef's daughter, left Kirsten at Josef's doorstep. So when this story was told, the doctors had a medical report in their hands, which showed severe deficiency of vitamin D, and they understood that something was wrong and Josef's story was not fitting. The doctors started getting suspicious, but to save Kirsten, her mother took the help of a doctor. It was very important to find her, so the doctors in the hospital gave direct information. This matter became so big that one day it came in the media that Kirsten's photo was put up, and it was being said that the girl's mother, Elisabeth, was also there. Along with this, Elisabeth's photo was also there that if Elisabeth is watching this news, please come to the hospital, or if anyone has seen Elisabeth, then he should report to the police. Now here, the story takes a little twist, because in the chamber where Josef had locked Elisabeth and the other children, surprisingly, Josef had installed a TV in which one day a news channel was running, and Elisabeth saw her own news, where the whole world outside the chamber was searching for her, so that Kerstin can be treated. As soon as Elisabeth saw the news, she started begging Josef to please take her to the hospital, because it would save her daughter's life. Surprisingly, Josef agreed, but he put a condition in front of Elisabeth. He put this condition that after reaching the hospital, Elisabeth has to tell everyone the story that she has run away from a cult and that she had left home a long time ago at the age of 18 to join the cult. Elisabeth accepted this condition, and Josef took her to the hospital. All the doctors and policemen were in the hospital, and they immediately arrested Elisabeth. The policemen arrested Elisabeth because they thought that the girl had abandoned her children. But when the police and Ali went to the private room and talked, Elisabeth told the truth. It's so incredible that people like Josef live in this world. Whoever the people were in this story, except Josef, they live in Austria today, and Josef is living in a prison, far away from his entire family. Now I come to the main point. There were many psychologists who studied the whole case, and they all said one thing, that Josef's whole plan was to build a bunker under the house. As soon as Elisabeth turns 18, kidnap her and keep her hidden from the whole world, and then have children. All this did not happen just like that. Josef was probably planning all this since Elisabeth was a little girl, and I think this makes sense, because Josef was busy constructing those bunkers and that secret chamber for so long because he was planning everything. And the amazing thing is that Josef had tried to make this planning so perfect that he knew that even if he was going out of the house for 10 to 15 days, no one would be able to find that chamber downstairs. And that is why Josef used to take a lot of trips in between, going to different places for 15 to 15 days, leaving the whole house and the whole chamber behind. I want to ask you a question. Okay, think carefully. Do you really think that Josef's wife Rosemarie had no involvement in this case? Do you really believe the fact that Rosemarie did not know anything about whatever Josef was doing during this entire time? Rosemarie quietly started raising all the children who came outside her door. Don't you think that Rosemarie was somehow involved with Josef? I feel so. What do you think?